The Barracudas are the freakiest gang in the Like a Dragon franchise to date. Where previous games would present enemy factions with a sense of order and unification, the Barracudas are the first chaotic evil gang we've ever gone up against. The Barracudas are one of the great benefits of moving the franchise away from Japan, as we're removing the Yakuza organization from the story and exploring new concepts and power structures in Honolulu. Think about it, the whole Ebina and Seiryu clan plotline doesn't begin until over halfway through the game, and it feels tenuous how it ties into Pelicana and the Barracudas. This is because when the series is in Japan, it's impossible for a new faction to arise without alerting the Yakuza, and the only groups capable of squaring off with them are the Triad and the Jingwang Mafia, which is too stylistically similar to the Yakuza. So taking the action to be removed from the Japanese crime syndicate allows RGG to come up with something totally unique for the new setting, and the Barracudas are an excellent creation on their part, as they could never exist in Japan for a number of reasons. First off, there's the simple fact that with how disorganized they are, the other factions would crush them easily. They have no high-ranking officials except for Dwight, so any high-ranking officer in the Tojo clan could crumble their organization. The other reason is pretty cool, as it ties into their location in Hawaii, or more accurately, America when it comes to the police. Like a Dragon has never demonized the police like they have the government. In fact, the Judgment games have you playing as a law enforcer of sorts, and I love that these games about criminals have never made the police straight up monsters. But when it comes to American police, that hilariously went straight out the window almost immediately. When they first show up, they assume Ichiban is the bad guy because he's a foreigner, and when he's arrested later on, they go full-on maniacal supervillain mode and plan to ruin Ichiban's life for the pettiest reasons. And I honestly couldn't help but cackle at this scene with how blatantly RGG was saying screw the police. It's only with law enforcers this crooked that the Barracudas could be allowed to operate freely, straight up performing an impromptu ritual murder and facing next to no consequences for it. This is shown through Roman, a sniveling weasel who lets these psychopaths continue on with their insanity out of apathy for the people he's supposed to protect, and he absolutely gets what he deserves. The Barracudas are also somewhat of a dark reflection of the other main antagonist faction in Hawaii's Pelicana. The Barracudas are a multicultural group that doesn't discriminate between each other and is made up of the downtrodden and homeless that drift towards Hawaii. They join the Barracudas out of a sense of desperation and desire to not starve to death on the streets, and the gang welcomes all and has an economy in place to help these unfortunates grow and rise through the ranks of the organization. This is mirrored by Pelicana, a religious charity that takes in orphans and unwanted children and raises them in a warm environment until they're shipped off to Nele Island to become sleeper agents for Bryce. While the Barracudas are savages and have no guarantee of safety within their walls, they allow individuals to grow within the organization. Meanwhile, Pelicana is a kind and loving environment to grow up in that secretly brainwashes you into becoming a zealot, not of any god, but of a cruel, twisted man. Another reflection between the two antagonists is how it's shown that the Barracudas will brutally kill anyone who annoys them in a Hellraiser-like fashion in public places because they know they'll get away with it, while Pelicana operates like a shadow society for Bryce, infiltrating every part of the culture in order to manipulate industries to bend to their sage's wicked will. So now we arrive at the million-dollar question. What vile tyrant stands at the top of the most wretched hive of scum and villainy you'll find on this side of the Pacific? Danny goddamn Trejo. This was revealed before the game was released, but I don't watch video game trailers, so when I finally stepped out of that penthouse elevator, I expected to see Prince Joffrey crossed with Shrek just torturing some poor girl. I mean, not 2 chapters earlier, the game had introduced the horrifying Yamai as a deranged sociopath, and the Barracudas were initially shown off as brazen sadistic murderers, so I couldn't even fathom what despicable monsters led them. By the way, I was totally wrong about Yamai being horrifying, and I have a character analysis of him up if you're interested. But when a digital version of Danny Trejo stood before me, and the real actor was voicing him, I knew that Like a Dragon had achieved peak comedy, and it was the best meta-casting in a video game since Keanu Reeves in Cyberpunk. Dwight is a larger-than-life ecstatic guy who I did not picture at all as being the king of the homicidal hobos. There's such a massive gap in character between him and his goons that it was off-putting at first. I mean, the only difference between Ebina and the Seiryu clan, as far as I'm concerned, is that Ebina has a backstory, and he's one of the few people who can turn into a martial arts expert when he throws his shirt off. Honestly, that's like the Conqueror's Haki of this franchise. The Barracudas are a fearsome gang within infinite wealth, but ultimately not ones with a ton of depth or an intimidating leader, making their role as early antagonists a perfect fit for them. And hey, who knows, the first significant antagonist faction of Yakuza 7 was the main threat in this game, so who's to say that the Barracudas don't come back better than ever.